Chapter 1. The Girl and the Whispering Woods. Long, long ago, before there were cities, cars, or even maps, the land we now call America was a world of pure magic. The trees were so tall they seemed to hold up the sky, and the rivers sang songs to the pebbles. In a small village nestled between three great mountains lived a girl named Ilara. Ilara was not a princess, and she did not live in a castle. She lived in a simple cabin made of pine wood. But she had a gift. Ilara could understand the language of the wind. Every morning, Ilara would walk to the edge of the great forest. The villagers stayed away from the deep woods, fearing the spirits that lived there. But Ilara felt at home. She would sit on an old mossy rock and listen. The wind would whisper stories of the old days, of the giants who shaped the valleys, and the star spirits who painted the night sky. One day, however, the wind did not whisper a story. It cried. It told Ilara that a shadow was coming, a shadow that would steal the light and turn the world to gray. Ilara ran back to her village. She saw that the green leaves were turning brown, even though it was summer. The flowers were closing their petals, and the honeybees were too tired to fly. The village elder, a wise man named Silas, stood in the center of the square. He looked at the sky and sighed. He told the people that the heart of the land, a magical stone that kept the seasons in balance, had been stolen by the Shadow King who lived in the dark mountains. Without the stone, the land would fall into a never-ending winter, and the magic would fade forever. Ilara knew she couldn't sit and watch her home die. "I will go," she said, her voice small but steady. The villagers looked at her with surprise. She was just a young girl with a wooden whistle and a brave heart, but Silas looked into her eyes and saw a light that the shadow could not touch. He gave her a small silver compass and a cloak made of owl feathers. "This compass will not show you north," he said. "It will show you the way to what is true. And the cloak will keep you hidden when you need to be still." Chapter 2. The Golden Companion. Ilara began her journey as the sun started to grow pale. She walked for miles, leaving the familiar paths of her village behind. The trees became thicker and darker. Strange shadows danced between the trees, but Ilara did not let fear stop her. She reached a clearing where an old oak tree had fallen. Sitting on the trunk was a large hawk with feathers that looked like beaten gold. The hawk's wing was caught under a heavy branch, and he was struggling to get free. Most people would have been afraid of such a powerful bird, but Ilara felt only kindness. She rushed to the tree. "Don't be afraid," she whispered. She used a long branch as a lever and pushed with all her might. With a loud crack, the heavy wood moved just enough for the hawk to pull his wing out. The hawk flew into the air, circling Ilara 3 times before landing on her shoulder. To her amazement, the hawk spoke. "I am Apollo," he said, his voice like the ringing of a bell. "I am a servant of the sun. In return, I will be your eyes in the sky." Apollo told Ilara that the Shadow King was not a man, but a creature made of forgotten dreams and cold mist. He lived in a fortress made of black ice. To get there, they would have to cross the whispering desert and the river of echoes. Ilara felt a shiver down her spine, but she looked at the silver compass. The needle was pointing straight ahead, glowing with a soft, warm light. With Apollo soaring about her, Ilara felt like she could face anything. Chapter 3. The Fox and the Desert of Stars. As they reached the edge of the forest, the trees vanished, replaced by an endless sea of white sand. This was the Whispering Desert. By day, the sun was hidden by the Shadow King's clouds, making the desert look like a ghost land. At night, the sand would glow, reflecting the stars above. As Ilara and Apollo walked, they saw something small moving quickly across the dunes. It was a silver fox with eyes like blue fire. The fox was being chased by a group of shadow hounds, creatures made of smoke and red eyes. Ilara didn't hesitate. She took out her wooden whistle and played a fast, bright tune. The music was so full of life and joy that the shadow hounds recoiled. They hated anything that felt like a happy memory. The hounds dissolved into the mist, and the silver fox stopped, panting. "I am Luna," the fox said, her voice smooth and clever. "I know the secret paths of this desert. You helped me, so I will help you find the way to the dark mountains." Luna led them through the desert, showing them hidden springs of sweet water tucked away in caves. She taught Ilara how to walk without making a sound, and how to read the patterns of the stars to find the quickest path. The three of them became a team. Ilara provided the heart and the music, Apollo provided the vision from above, and Luna provided the wisdom of the earth. They shared stories of their lives, and for a moment the mission didn't feel so heavy. They weren't just travelers, they were friends. Chapter 4. The Giant of the Echoing River. After many days, the sand turned to stone, and the sound of rushing water filled the air. They had reached the River of Echoes. The water was black and deep, and there was no bridge. On the other side stood the dark mountains, tall and jagged like the teeth of a beast. Guarding the river was a giant, as tall as a pine tree. He sat on a boulder, his head in his hands, weeping. His tears were falling into the river, creating waves that made it impossible to cross. "Why do you cry, Great One?" Ilara asked, standing as tall as she could. The giant looked up. His face was weathered like an old cliffside. "I have lost my song," the giant rumbled. "The Shadow King stole my memories of the great dance, and now I'm stuck here, drowning the world in my sadness." Ilara realized that the Shadow King didn't just steal objects, he stole the things that made life beautiful. Ilara sat down near the giant and began to play her whistle again. This time, she didn't play a fast tune. She played a slow, deep melody that sounded like the earth waking up in the spring. Apollo joined in with a high, clear whistle, and Luna began to hum a low rhythm. The music surrounded the giant like a warm blanket. Slowly, his tears stopped. He remembered the sunlight on his face and the sound of the wind in the valleys. He stood up, his eyes shining with hope. "You have brought back my light," he said. He reached down, picked up Ilara and her friends, and gently placed them on the other side of the river. Chapter 5. The Fortress of Black Ice. The air grew freezing as they climbed the dark mountains. The ground was slick with ice, and the wind howled like a hungry wolf. Finally, they saw it. The Shadow King's fortress. It was a palace of black ice, jagged and cold, reaching towards the dark sky. In the highest tower, a single light flickered. It was the heart of the land, trapped in a cage of shadows. Using her owl feather cloak, Ilara led Apollo and Luna past the shadow guards. They moved like ghosts through the cold hallways. When they reached the throne room, they saw the Shadow King. He was a tall, thin figure, wrapped in robes of smoke. He had no face, only 2 empty spots where eyes should be. He held the heart of the land in his hands, trying to drain its last bit of warmth. "Stop!" Ilara shouted, stepping out from her cloak. The Shadow King laughed, a sound like cracking ice. "A little girl, a bird, and a fox, you think you can stop the eternal winter?" He waved his hand, and a wave of cold darkness rushed towards them. Apollo dived from the ceiling, using his golden wings to create a shield of light. Luna darted around the king's feet, distracting him with her speed. Ilara knew that weapons would not win this fight. She took out her wooden whistle and played the most beautiful song she had ever created. It was a song of home, of friendship, and of the sun. It was a song that carried the warmth of every fire she had ever sat by, and the love of her village. As she played, the heart of the land began to glow brighter. The light from the stone and the music from the whistle joined together. The Shadow King began to shrink. He couldn't stand the warmth of a heart that refused to be cold. With a final cry, the Shadow King dissolved into nothing but a puff of gray smoke, which the wind quickly blew away. Chapter 6. The Return of the Sun. As the king vanished, the fortress began to melt. Ilara grabbed the heart of the land. It felt warm and pulsing in her hands, like a tiny sun. The three friends rushed out of the mountains as the black ice turned into clear, sparkling water. As they reached the valley, Ilara held the stone high above her head. A wave of golden light shot out from the stone, rolling across the entire land. The brown leaves turned green again. The flowers opened their petals,